box here. 1 second. I'll do this one, I guess. And then that's meant to be the front of the felon. That's the back, and then there's like a drawing here. I'll do like that, so you know what I mean. And the straps go like that, right? Not the best drawing, but anyways. So this over here is the bias. This is called the titura.
Base?
No, that's spelled actually. I don't remember how it's spelled. In English, it's called the titura. I mean, I don't know if it's a tit or a tough. I don't know. I don't remember. And this is called the Mahabharata. Also, I remember. Probably a Aramaic word. I don't remember. Anyways, so this is a scene. It folds in half, and it opens up, and then you put the partials inside. But you don't see that. It's closed. You should see it. You're supposed to check it once you.
It's threaded. It's threaded.
Then you see underneath those 12. There's like 12 little knots on the underside. If you look,
right.
And going around. Anyways, so the first thing I did is he took a knife and just shoved it in here, split it open, which is what you do. But my heart dropped. I was like, what are you doing to my tefillin? He was like, he was like a surgeon cutting it open. What he's supposed to do is checking the inside. And I was like torn apart. How do you do that to my tefillin? I was mortified. He was like, thought I was crazy. So I didn't feel like about my bike. I didn't know about my bike, but I'm surprised I didn't. Anyways, you're supposed to get your tefillin checked. They say twice every 7 years.
Which is a weird thing. It said it's like every 3 or 4
Right, it's not like that exactly, yeah. I don't know if it actually is true, by the way, I should point out, I'm not sure. You should get it checked, but you should ask the sofer, because at some point, the checking, everything's very high quality. And if you didn't bang up your tefillin, and then made love from the outset, then you're probably doing more damage by ripping them open and fiddling with them, leaving them be. You have to ask the sofer. So those tefillin, that sits at, mezuzah is the same thing. Same thing twice every 7 years. But the sofer told me, these are good mezuzahs, they're inside your house is air conditioned, blah, blah, blah. You're better, the more you unroll it, the more likely it is to crack.
Yeah.
Just, he said leave it be for 7 years. Don't check it so often. The checking causes more damage because, for an internal mezuzah, etc. Same thing with your tefillin. If you have good tefillin and you keep them in the dashboard of your car or something, probably best off not breaking them too often. Anyways.
So you go 6 moves, 6 moves, 6 moves.
Oh.
Twice every 7 years.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that. The minute is doing an L, by the way, for what it's worth. So if you're thinking of getting a tefillin check, you should get them checked. Also, the first time you get your tefillin checked, you should have it, the first time ever, you have a computer check it. The partials, that's what they do to make sure there's not a missing letter. Right? But obviously you have to do it once. After that, much more like your tefillin are broken because you've walked into the wall or something than anything else. Tough. Okay, that's all that. Spend my time doing with that. So, we're holding the dove tests. Today is Erev Walmart. Tomorrow we'll meet. The kids are even in school till midnight.
No, my kids are not in school tomorrow.
No, they're out of school?
Yeah, you were told this morning at Kolia and Chofish.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're not in school tomorrow.
Alright, so I guess we won't meet them tomorrow? Yeah, okay.
You skip till Sunday.
You can?
The morning one we will. Yeah, 9 o'clock, but this is midday. Okay, so tomorrow, no shir then? Seder? Today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. Okay, it is what it is. Let's get to the Mishnah then, at least, and then we'll do a quick review, whatever. We're holding daf tests. The last 2 days we dealt with a topic. We're winding up. If you look on daf tests on the base, you'll see the Mishnah, the second Mishnah looming large. So today, Bez Hashem, will finish the Gemara on our first Mishnah. It took a while, but it is. I bet there are Mesechtas that have fewer words than what's done in the first Mishnah. Probably. So in any case, we're sort of clean, if you will. We were going through the last bits of the Mishnah and their meaning, and we sort of have some loose ends. If you ask me, the Gemara says, well, we've gone through each keta, each section of the Mishnah, and we're sort of discussed them, and the Mishnah says, well, wait a second. We've analyzed everything that there is in the Mishnah, each step, finally the story between Gamliel and his sons, and the discussion about the midnight chatzot. But besides for discussing what there is in the Mishnah, there's one thing that is noticeably not in the Mishnah, which is what happens to the Korban Pesach. That was the point of departure. So when the dust settled, we said, although there's a brisa that talks about Korban Pesach being eaten all night, and that would make it applicable to our Mishnah also, that's according to Rabbi Akiva, and there's another Tana, Rabbi Elazar Azariah, and he is our Mishnah was based on his thinking that you only have to chatzos, midoraisa, to eat the Korban Pesach, and the machlokas ultimately is based on the word b'chipazon. You eat it at the time until the time of the rush. Whose rush is it? According to Rabbi Akiva, it's the rush of the Jews in the morning. According to Rabbi Elazar Azariah, it's the rush of the Mitzrayim at midnight. Which in itself is interesting, by the way. But anyways, that's funny. Sorry, Ian.
Is it a concept of onus?
Of the onus?
With
Only the Afikomen. We're not.
Yeah.
I mean, so the actual Korban Pesach, the Afikomen is designed to parallel the din of the Korban Pesach, but it's not a Korban Pesach.
Right.
So you can make it there much more. It's like and at the expense of your Mesechta Pesach Seder for like remembering the Korban Pesach in midnight. So there are many people. Some people are machmir. There are the Afikomen and midnight people. I don't know if they're more than half or fewer than half. We can take a survey here. Who's not screw up being matbit or not? But anyways, either yay or nay. That's the issue at hand. But it's not, since it's not a Korban Pesach, there are those who are makeable because it comes at the expense of rushing your Pesach Seder. In any case, but so that's the Gemara that I'm saying that there's a machlokas of what Pazon we're talking about. And we even then said, by the way, this was a previous generation's machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. Again, that same issue about whatever, fine. So then, that was like the end of the story. But then the Gemara goes off on one of its many tangents and says, oh, speaking of Yetzias Mitzrayim, like really, it's like that. That's how it is. Speaking of Yetzias Mitzrayim, so you should know, like I think that's the only connection. At the very bottom there, until like 3 lines to the bottom, line 50, so the Gemara picks up and says, when Hashem said to Moshe, the Berna, say please to the Jews, what I wanted to say please about is please ask the Jews nicely to go borrow the Egyptians' silver and gold so we can have Brachos. Why did that happen? Because Hashem made a promise to Avraham 400 years previously that the Jews would be enslaved for 400 years, and when they go out, they'll leave Brachos Gadol with a big booty, and so that Hashem shouldn't have not fulfilled his promise to Avraham, he insists they leave with booty now, the silver and gold. And the reason for the Berna, say, please ask them, and is because the Jews would be disinclined to take the booty. Up to now, I think the only issue is just that, extraneous, like small-mindedness, I think. Because the Gemara ends up saying on top of the Nunam base, it gives a mashal. When the Gemara says something, I'm going to ask a question that my question is better than the answer. The Gemara says something straightforward. I'll read it inside. Let's read it inside this last piece together. So we'll start from line 50 on Tes and Aleph. The Berna ba'aznei ha'am v'gomer. Speak, please, the people. Amar d'bir b'yanai. Ein na, when the pasuk says na, anytime. El lashon b'kasha, it means please. Amar le'kadosh baruch Moshe, because Hashem said to Moshe, b'vakasha mimcha, I plead with you, I request kindly of you. Ve'emor lehem liYisrael, to tell the Jews, b'vakasha, please, nechem, shalu Mitzrayim, ask, or shalu is not ask, because that it's borrow. I translated it incorrectly last time also. Shoel is to ask, and Shoel is also to borrow. So, Sha'alu, borrow from the Egyptians, kli kesef v'kli zahav, their silver and gold stuff. Shul Yomar, also tzaddik, so that tzaddik, meaning Abraham, shouldn't say va'avdum va'anu osam, kayam b'hem. The part about the promise, Abraham would say to Hashem, you told me they'd be enslaved and the Egyptians would afflict them. That part, yeah, Hashem, you did. But you also said after that, the Yatzu B'Chush Gadol, they would leave Egypt with a lot of booty. B'Chush means stuff. Right?
Inheritance, yeah?
No, not inheritance. That's not what it means. B'Chush means, how do I translate an art scroll?
Depart.
How?
Possession.
Possession, yeah. B'Chush means stuff. Like it means just a lot of wealth. It doesn't mean anything more than that. But Yetzer B'Chush Gado means they'll go out to know with full pockets. So, but that Lo Kayam B'hem, that Avram would complain to Hashem about. Amrulo, so the Jews responded back to Moshe, like, we're not interested. V'lavai sheneitzei ba'atzmeinu. Like, if only let us just, it's sufficient, Dainu, that we should get ourselves out of here. And that's why Moshe had to plead with them to, no, please ask. So you don't see, and then, okay, fine. That's the story. Now, then
isn't this proof that there's an Olam Haba? If Avram is still,
It's an interesting discussion. Hold that thought. It needs to be answered. Like, what does that mean exactly? Is this purely? Well, first of all, there is a Olam Haba, so right. There's no great finish there. But the relationship. I'm not answering this question. Let's put it on the table. The relationship between the dead and what goes on amongst the living is a discussion in our Mesechta. Goes on. These are all right. Do it here at Rosh Hashanah 1 second. Is that? I gotta make stuff here. I don't remember. Where's that sugya? Anyone know?
Anyway,
There's a sugya that says that so-and-so girl, how does it start? Such as a guy slept in the base of Padowitz on Rosh Hashanah, and he heard the two girls talking. Anyone know that verse? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Brachos?
That's the one that didn't have nice clothing to go out.
She says, I can't go out, I'm buried in reeds, or whatever, that was one shot, yeah. Does anyone know, the Gemara is in Brachos or is it in Rosh Hashanah? I think it's in Brachos. It just happened on Rosh Hashanah. I don't remember what it is anymore exactly. In any case, there's a sugya, I think in our Mesechta, which we'll discuss, but what the dead know about what goes on in the living. But here, it sounds like that, but maybe it's only an issue of Hashem's integrity, if you will. In other words, and it's all like, it's not literal, like, Avram's not going to start.
But I said this and I want to make sure I do.
Right, I said I did, and it wouldn't be good enough. Yeah, like, I gave my word, and so Avram shouldn't have a time on me and say blah blah. It doesn't mean literally that Avram's like berate Hashem. What is supposed to mean? Maybe not. Maybe it does mean that. Maybe it literally means that Avram will come knocking on the big man's door and say, "What's going on here? Waiting 400 years and you didn't feel like I don't know." Sorry.
Okay.
In any case, I don't know how little it takes.
Thanks for that.
But it's hard to understand it that way because you see throughout all this Zionis, he never questioned anything. So how would he have? That would be very counter.
That was in this world.
Not what Avram would do.
That was in this world.
Yeah, that's a promise. That's like now, Hashem saying there's difference. I think we're all speaking counterfact. Who knows? But I'm saying Hashem saying I'll take care of you and things being bad. Hashem could Avram could say I don't know how to work out, but I have faith in Hashem, so to speak, what he did. But that's different than Hashem saying, listen, here's the plan. And I promise you, for 400 years they'll serve. When they leave, they're going to go with pockets full of money. And now they left, and there's no pockets full of money, so there's no faith in Hashem. It's not true. What he said is untrue. I think that's the issue. So the Gemara could have taken if you learn like that, the Gemara could have taken the tack, like look at how important the person's word is, and like Hashem has to sort of, if he said it, he'll do it. And getting it a week later at the Yom wouldn't be good enough. Anyways, that's not where the Gemara goes. The Gemara takes it quite seriously. That Avram would have a time. It's all counterfactual. You understand what I'm saying? It's like
right.
Didn't happen because they took the money. So like Avram didn't have a time. So we don't know if it's literally Hashem's.
What's the Lashon of borrow? The Egyptian.
So that's So
is it borrow?
It's and that's it. Well, so it's a fun. That's it.
So Old Scrolls translates it as request. Sha'alu is request.
No, but there is a teaching that it's to borrow.
I thought the pshat.
In fact, I think I read recently where the Arabs were saying that we borrowed it, you have to give it back to us.
So
the Egyptians.
Can I tell you an amazing story? I've heard this the other way around. I'll tell you a story that happened the other way around. My grandfather was in Florence, and he saw a leather jacket he wanted to buy for my cousin. And the cousin said, and the salesman said, he wants $100 for it, I don't remember, 100 euros for it. And my grandfather was just like haggling with him. And so he's like schmoozing. He says, "Where are you from?" So he says, the guy says, "He's from Egypt." He says, "Egypt? Then you owe me." And the guy says, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Because your grandfather's grandfather had my grandfather as a slave and never paid him. You owe me for that." It actually worked. He got like 30 years off, I think. This is a true story. This is a true story. Anyways, so it's hard. Okay, so first of all, it's hard to know what really it means because it didn't happen. That's that one. In terms of the Sheila, I always thought the pshat was that they, because it's lush. You see, it's our sugi. We haven't seen yet the next few words. But the way to understand this and the second over there and the marsha is that they asked. Here's what happened. The story is during Makas Choshech, the Egyptians were in the dark and immobilized. The Jews went looking around their house and said, "Oh, they see that's a nice cup." Silver cup, and then now they came knocking on the door and says, "Oh, I know you have that. You know that silver cup you have in your cupboard over there? Can I borrow it?" I thought it was borrowed.
I think it is borrowed.
But that's what I thought. I thought it was borrowed. But you're asking a question, and then I want to understand. That's what now I'm getting what I was saying a moment ago in the shir, but for all this digression. So I always wanted to understand this is something disingenuous, and therefore that's why they didn't want to do it. Hence the daber na. The Hashem sort of saying, "I need you to do me a favor."
A request could mean borrow too.
If
I request something, from him, it could be that
Doesn't mean to keep, right?
Could you lend me a pen?
I saw the news.
That I'm asking for it forever.
You know what? Give me the Chumash Rashi. But I'll look up now. I saw in the news. This is another true story. It sounds too good to be true. A guy was just arrested this week. An Israeli guy. He had robbed 5 banks. He made like 112,000 shekels. And this was his MO. He walked to the bank, politely said to the cashier, 5 different banks.
No weapons.
Politely said to the cashier, "I have no weapon, and I'm not going to do anything to you, but I'm robbing the bank. Please fill this plastic bag up with money." And 5 cashiers in 5 different banks
did it.
He made like 100, whatever, 10, something like 1,000 shekels, and the police arrested him for robbing the banks. And that was the news, and it's a misupah. It's another question if you'll actually be like, I would like to see them, press charges. What did he do already?
He just asked for something.
He asked for money. They gave it to him. Anyways, yay or nay. Not our topic. If it's thieving, but I'm saying, so that's you said request and like borrow was like a great line. Same kind of thing here. He said he's taking the money, but he just asked for it and they gave it to him. So I'm not sure if that's what happened here. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
So why is it all necessary? I mean, Hashem would just put silver and gold in their pockets, period. We don't have to involve the Egyptians.
Hashem wants to limit the miracle.
That never happened in all the Torah ever.
What?
Never happened. That people have this. People ask the question like, Hashem knows what he could do, blah blah blah.
Right.
You never see. I mean, there was Bereshis, even Bereshis out things, and maybe Har Sinai where Hashem wanted to personally reveal himself. Otherwise, you never ever see a miracle happening that way, like things popping out of like the cartoon style.
Wasn't Moshe.
Yeah, but it has to come through like some natural path. Hashem, you never see any. Think of the Nisa. You don't see like a cartoon, so to speak, where like out of thin air something pops out of nowhere. It doesn't work like that. The wind blows and makes the sea split, or someone sticks their staff in the sand, or something happens and like it triggers.
Ask them to misrepresent themselves, is they like to borrow those things. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to get back to that.
That's not true either, because with Elisha and the oil and the pots or whatever,
It just kept on coming.
coming.
But not out of nowhere. That's the point.
Yeah.
He poured a thing and it was like the bottomless until the cups ran out. The oil poured.
Right.
But why could he just say, okay,
Right.
have a cupboard full? It doesn't work like that.
Right.
And by the examples I gave you of the splitting of the sea and the Makos were intended to be the most miraculous things,
Right.
where people are saying this is clearly Hashem because it's not Derech HaTeva, and even then you have people doing stuff.
The wind.
Yeah. And everything else, every other miracle, like lesser miracles like Elisha, it's like basically like glorified magic tricks. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, something's happening. You don't see Hashem. You don't see Hashem like do make something out of nothing. So the question, why does Hashem just fill the money with pockets of money is like the answer is that's not how Hashem works. He doesn't. I just want to see how sha'alu. You said they said here is request.
No, 985.
Okay, first of all, I see the art scroll themselves.
It says
Look at 45, no, 45, just, it says, the Tuma, so to speak, the Jews in Egypt would never have borrowed silver and gold vessels on their own. They were not inclined to enrich themselves if such wealth can be obtained through trickery and misrepresentation. And it's a sugi there, and it's a head, that's something else. So the Jews considered it distasteful to procure their payments by quote-unquote borrowing expensive items that they would never return.
So they asked for it. Can you fill up my bag with money?
Yeah, and you'll see another sugi today that's about we'll see in a minute here. Yeah, but it wasn't can you fill up my bag of money? It was I think the shot was, can I please borrow your golden goblet? But the way they asked it was, oh, you know that cup you have hidden in your drawer under your bed? Can I borrow that cup, please? So very awkward to say no. And they were scared of the Jews. The Jews were very like this was, but they hadn't yet been chased out. I think I stand to be corrected here. But an extension of I told you yesterday I was at the kasha of, like if they said they're going for 3 days, how come they don't have to come back?
Yeah.
So I think this is an extension of the same teretz, that they borrowed it, and like it was, you had to return it when they were like, run for their lives, and like they ran, that was it, like, let's just get out of here. And they were sort of, perhaps, the non-Jews removed la terre on the Jewish stuff. I don't know, it seems like, doesn't seem very sharp. Like you have to square that away. Look more, it's a bit of our sugya stuff. We can discuss it more, but look at the actual, the Gemara talks about it. But before I do that, you know what? If you can hold that thought without losing track of it. I want to say one more point from this last thing we said. Just, the Gemara said, please, what we said, I want to repeat myself. Then the Gemara says, mashal. It says like, I'll tell you a parable. You know what this is like? This is like la'adam shahaya chavush b'leisas, or a man was trapped in jail. V'ayu omrim lo, and they said to him, b'nei adam lotzim atchal machar b'leisas. They tell the prisoner, guess what? Tomorrow you're getting bailed out of here. But nos l'cham momen harba, when you get bailed out, they'll give you lots of money too. V'omrim lahem, the prisoner says back to the guards, b'vakasham mechem, please, hotzieni hayom, just let me out today. And I don't ask for anything more than that. So, now, stop. I don't have a good answer to this question, but this question I'll put to you, maybe someone will, really, hopefully someone will come to that answer. If the Gemara is saying that, it means it's going to add something. You understand? The Gemara is not telling you stories. We just said they didn't want, they had to be requested. The Jews had to be requested, please, do something they didn't want to do. They didn't want to do. So, however you understand that, in other words, the question would be, why did they want to do it? What did they not want to do? Why is it so bad to ask them to get money? Whatever that is, the Gemara is going to answer that question by giving you a mashal. That's how the Gemara, that's logic, right? The logic of the Gemara is, you want to understand this? So yeah, well, I'll tell you. It's kind of like, and he gives a mashal, like the prisoner. Now, I don't have my head isn't really around it well, exactly what this mashal is coming to add. You can think about it yourselves. I don't think I have anything more to this. Your understanding will be just as good as my understanding. It's just valid. The Gemara is telling you, this was the psychology. The Jews are like, Moshe, forget the money, let's just get out of here now. I guess, that's a dynamic, but it's funny to, they didn't say that. And they weren't going out yet, and it wasn't happening. So once they're anyways not going out, so let them take the money. I don't know exactly. I'm just putting on the table that whenever the Gemara says mashal madaradome, the assumption must be, but what we said, you don't get it. But you'll get it if I tell you this mashal. Right? So that's what's happening here. So I'm not exactly sure what you're not getting it is until the mashal came to clarify.
It must have to do something with the fact that a prison guard is on the same level of connection between the prisoner as the Egyptians were with the Jews.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's clear. That's right. That's been on there. Yeah.
So it must have something to do with how it feels to be in that situation.
Right. Okay. So, indeed, I agree. I really agree with you. But let me speak out like what I don't understand, what I don't understand. So I would have thought the Jews' objection was like, why do I have to schnorr? We're going out. We're awesome. We're the kings of the castle. We do whatever we want, and we hold our head up high. And everyone, our oppressors are scared of us. And like our Hashem is just beating them to a pulp. This is awesome. Like, we're not afraid of them anymore. We're basically free. They weren't free to go yet, really, but they were not in servitude anymore. So then Hashem says, "Oh, by the way, do me a favor and go schnorr, knock on the doors, and like wiggle out their money out of them." So I would have thought the pshat is they're like, "Oh, come on, like, what do I have to do that for? Like, then I feel bad. I feel like emotionally bad." And it's like, who wants to schnorr? Like, I don't have to. Stupid bad. But that's what the mashal is saying. The mashal is saying something different. That's why I understand it. The mashal is saying, just forget it. Forget the money. Just halavai with the Medina. Let's get out today.
No, what I think here, it's setting up the whole concept of anti-Semitism, because why did the non-Jews hate us? Why did prison guards hate letting prisoners go? Because they don't have control over them anymore. It's like, I want to be able to have something over you, and that's what the whole thing is here. It's setting up anti-Semitism. I mean, that's what the Goyim complain about all the time, that we're rich and we, I don't know.
Perhaps, okay, anyways, I have nothing more to say. Like I said, I don't think I don't have a hezbollah. I don't understand anything more than that, so if you have a better or different, then someday. Anyways, the Gemara continues on our topic of the request. Well, what I want you to take away is not my lack of explanation. It's not my point. I wouldn't have brought it up if as a rule, I won't bring up things I don't understand, because I think, not because that's what I lie, because I think it's not very helpful. Like, it makes you feel bad about the sugi. It's a bit about the sugi. I'm like, you're not learning anything. You just feel like I don't get it. You don't get it either. So I will generally refrain from kashas that I don't have answers to. You can ask whatever you want. It's your prerogative, and I will then be very frank. I don't have an answer to it if I don't. But here, my point for bringing this up and like leaving the Gemara. That's what Melinowitz once told me. Not so. I don't know. Whatever. He said, I don't know enough to walk away from a Gemara and say it doesn't make sense. Like, that just means that I have to work hard to understand it. It's not that, and that's what's going on here. It's solvable, and I wouldn't make you feel bad about the sugya. My point of telling the story about the mashal thing is to teach you this. I'm teaching you in a positive. I'm teaching you a factor, which is if the Gemara says mashal l'madav or dome or whatever mashal, it's the function of that move in the chess game of the Gemara is to tell you you didn't understand my points. Like, I know you think you understood, but you didn't understand. And therefore, let me tell you what it's like. And I'll read. Otherwise, the mashal telling you, it's because why am I saying this? Because 10 times out of 10, when you learn the Gemara and it says gives you a mashal, you think the mashal is just redundant. Like, I already got that. Yeah, the mashal is like just to illustrate what you already knew. If you already knew it, then Gemara wouldn't say it. Or does it give a mashal to every story? The point of the mashal is that it's real like this and not what you were thinking. That's all I'm saying. So here,
it's almost like an answer from Rashi. You have to figure out what the question
right.
was.
Exactly right.
Why is Rashi giving me this answer?
Exactly right.
Like, what's the chiddush?
Exactly right. The Gemara is saying something is giving you this. It's repeating itself. The Gemara wouldn't repeat itself by saying a mashal like it's like something else, unless it's fleshing out something you wouldn't otherwise get. So you have to resolve that question. I don't have a good answer here because I don't know how to square the two away. No, the mashal is clear to me. The mashal is clear to me, right? It's just how that fits in the words and the sukkah is not clear to me. Okay, but I'm moving on now. So the two dots. After the two dots here, we're asking on this word, the request, the borrowing word. V'yash'ilum, is that right? V'yash'ilum, I don't know if it goes here. Yeah, v'yash'ilum, which means, and you should request them.
And they lent?
No, and they lent them. So that's for sure also a lending. You see, hello. You see also it's a lending. You see, it's a like borrowing. This is a hifil. The Egyptians cause their stuff to be lent to them, the Jews. So we're darshan that. The marshals were darshan because the mem is superfluous. It could have just said they lent. What's they lent? Them, meaning the stuff, or was an extra mem. Amar Bami, Malamed, that teaches you sheish ilum bal korcham. It tells you that this lending was done against their will. And I told you the first rule of pronouns is no pronouns in the Gemara because it's ambiguous. When it says they was against their will, which them are you talking about? Igada Amri, some people say it's Bal Korcham de Mitzrayim, or de Mitzrayim. It was against the will of Egypt. In other words, Egypt didn't want to lend their stuff out, and yet they sort of were guilted into it. The Igada Amri, there are others who say it's Bal Korcham de Yisrael. It was the Jews who didn't want to do it. Manda Amr, period. The Jews didn't want to go schnorring on the door. Manda Amr Bal Korcham de Mitzrayim. The Manda Amr who holds, the one who holds that it was against the will of Egypt. Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, the Navas Bais. Sorry. The Navas. It's Unavas Bais Tichalek Shalal, which means period. That's the proof text, which is very strange. It's a pasuk from Tehillim, which means the one who dwells in the house apportions shalal. Now shalal means booty from war. So it's understanding this is a reference to the Mitzrayim, and they are tichalek, they're giving out their stuff not as a loan but as shalal, as booty. So the point is, they don't want to be doing that. And that was against their will, to sort of be despoiling themselves. Mandar Bakorcham de Yisrael, the one who says it was against the Jews' wishes to go asking for money. Mishum Masri, not because they felt awkward about it, but because they just didn't want to deal with the stuff. Mishum Masri means the physical load, the schlep. Who wants to start bringing pots and pans to the desert? In the golden pots and pans.
You know, when you say the word shalal, it reminds me of the story of Achan and Yehoshua in Ai.
Right.
And it seems to me that there's a connection here between that whole thing where he took something that he wasn't supposed to, but these people were dead already. Maybe the Egyptians were afraid that they're going to be killed, like the firstborns were dead now.
This is before that, though. It's like, why am I hesitating?
Yeah.
Because this is David Melech talking poetically about back then.
Right.
But when the Egyptians lent out their gold and stuff, their kids were alive still. But they didn't want to. Listen, it's like weird. I mean, they didn't want to. I'm not sure how tightly it's connected. Shalal just means booties of war.
Yeah.
So it's we're treating their lent, golden cups as booty, meaning they're not going to get back. And if they didn't want, there was against Bal Korcham, they didn't want to give it because they knew full well they wouldn't get it back. Some of the other.
Is this the incident where David and his men go after the Philistine?
No, that's not. We're talking about the Jews denuding the Egyptians of their stuff by going around after the ninth plague and saying.
Oh, you said David. Sorry.
Yeah, so David Melech is saying into the pasuk. So I'm going to take a step back. The proof, all of them, just keep the main. Here's the forest before you get to the trees. The forest is V'yishalu v'yashilum. They lent them, meaning the Egyptians lent the Jews their stuff. The question is, why does it say the word the mem, their stuff? In context, it's not necessary. That's what Marsha explains. So we darshan it, we said, because it was against their will, not the drasha. Whose will? Some say the Jews, some say Egyptians, against the Egyptians' will. Those who say it was against the Egyptians' will, because, obviously because the Egyptians didn't want to give up their stuff. And the proof text brought is a pasuk from Tehillim, which is like weird. That is just weird. But I'm not asking Kasha, I'm just explaining to the Pasha Pshat, I guess, Pasha Pshat, which is, David Melech is talking about the Egyptians, and he's referring to them apportioning out their stuff from their houses and calling it shalal, booty, which is the kind of thing that's spoils of war, which is not the Egyptians, I guess, were relating it to themselves being despoiled while they're still living in their houses, and they were resentful, hence Bal Korcham. And that's just the Pasha Pshat of the text.
The note at the bottom, attributed to the Union Yaakov, says that they were expecting the Egyptians to chase after them, and they didn't want to have to, they wouldn't be able to go as fast if they were carrying all this heavy stuff. And the other note with the Sam Sofer said that they were concerned that the animals would be carrying stuff on Yom Tov and Shabbos.
Right. Yeah, okay, I don't know what to say about this. I'm so far in it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But in Yaakov, he's saying, this is a tiny connection. I'm just saying, Stam who wants to, the issue, the Pasha shot is, it's not they felt bad about asking, it's they just didn't want to deal with carrying all the stuff. Maybe that connects back to the previous thing before. I told you of when they said when the prisoner was saying to the guard, just forget it, just let me out of here. It's the same thing. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. I just want to start a new life afresh. I don't want to be burdened with this old stuff. Muslim means burden. So literally, it's not clear if it means just, I want to start fresh.
It's also going to remind them of being slaves when they.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure if it's like a psychological muscle, but the way that Yaakov is saying it, it's that they're going to have to run for their lives. I don't know how they do that, but anyways, and they didn't want to be burdened down with stuff. Whatever it is, what's clear is they didn't want to take the stuff, and Hashem made them because of this promise to Abraham. Fine, and that's that. That's that. Fine.
By the way, with the Moshel, it wasn't like they had a choice to leave today without.
That's the weird thing.
It wasn't like saying, what would you guys like?
That's why I don't understand. That's why I don't understand it. Exactly. That's why I don't understand. That's hitting the nail on the head. Like the mashal doesn't seem to describe the scenario as I'm imagining it. Right? The mashal was, just let me out today and forget the stuff, because that wasn't on the cards. Well, they're still sitting in Egypt, and Hashem says get to the stuff, and they're like, oh, let's just go out already. That wasn't what happened. Okay. Yes. Okay. Fine. End of story. 2 dots. And now, since the Gemara is talking about Sukkim with Yitzis Mitzrayim, we got one more here. 2 more actually. So it says V'inatzlu es Mitzrayim, which means on the way out they emptied out Egypt. So what does it mean they emptied out Egypt? So they are kind of darshaning it also. The drush is looking at the word nitzal as like nitzad. There's actually Tosfos elsewhere that says the dal and lam are interchangeable sometimes. So the point is, they made it k'mitzuda she'ein bo dagan. First shot is Rav Ami, is they turned Egypt by emptying out into a trap that had no grain. I'll explain more in a second. And Rish Lakish Amar Asua k'mitzula. They made it like a depth of the ocean, she'ein bo dagan, that has no fish. In the story. So what's the two mashalim? So mitzuda is it's like a bird trap. You know how it worked? You can like the cartoons. You've seen it before. They had birds are going pecking at their grain on the ground, and then as soon as they're really well, they pull instead of trapping it out, they pull it up and they catch it. So I think the point, if I understand it correctly, this version is that Egypt is a trap. It's a trap. And everyone kind of knows the trap, but they figure I don't know what. Either it's worth it or they're enticed to it because of it's like Manhattan. If you've ever been to Manhattan, you'll know exactly what I mean. Like, who the heck would want to live in Manhattan?
Right.
It's crazy, it's crowded, it's miserable. Everyone lives in little 2-by-nothing apartments. Like, what's the appeal of that? The answer is, no, there's all this glittering stuff, and people basically rationalize because of all this glitter that they want to go put up with it for a time, or whatever the story is. So that's like Egypt. Egypt might have been like a trashy place, and rather unappealing, and everyone knew it was like a black hole. Everyone knows, like, you go work in the city, it's a black hole. But they figure, they figure they'll get out in time, or they'll, what was that? There was that funny graduation speech, which became like a song, like, don't forget to wear the suntan lotion. It was very popular. But 20 years ago, someone gave us, you've heard it.
I'm not that old, sorry.
Someone gave a graduation speech about don't forget to put on suntan lotion, and then they had a bunch of other advice, which became a famous song. Oh yes, and then I'll circulate it around. You've heard it before. It's anyways, but you don't remember? Maybe you'll dance the funky chicken at your 75th wedding anniversary or something. Blah, blah, blah. You don't know the story? No. I'm gonna send it around to you. Don't forget the suntan lotion. It's great. It's great. I'd send it around to you. Anyways, there's a line there in that advice, which is like, someone like, spend time in New York, but leave before it makes you hard, and spend time in California, but leave before it makes you soft, like something like that. Anyways, so that's what I think people think. People think they'll pay their dues and get rich and retire by 40 and get out of there because they know it's a trap, but they'll get out of there, something like that. So the Mitzrayim was that way. I think the first mashal, like everyone knows it's a trap, but like you go there, you think I'm different and I'll be okay because of what's the trap and what the enticement of it. But once the money was taken out of the place, then like who the heck would go there? And who would work in Manhattan if there was 50% unemployment? No one would go to Manhattan. Who wants to be there? Rather, that's the mashal. Egypt was a trap, never knew it. But once you take the money away, then like no one's going to go there. No one wants the place. It's totally worthless. But they perceive it as a trap. That's I think the pshat or upshot here. The pashup shot. I think the pashup shot and mashal. And the other version is the Metsula. Metsula is like deep in the ocean. So the way Rashi says it, with Rashi for pashup shot, is like the fish live at the surface. The water, like not much is in the depths. Which is also, it's also true. People are, when you fall off a boat, if you watch, I hope you didn't see the movie Jaws, but because a whole generation of people, I didn't see it, it's a little before my time. But a whole generation of people saw the movie Jaws and like are terrified to swim in the ocean because they can't help but think, if you fall off the boat, there's a shark waiting to get you. The truth is, if you fall off the boat in the middle of the ocean, there's like nothing there. The oceans are empty. The middle of the ocean is just empty. The fish live like on the shoals and where there's, but in the middle of the ocean, less, it's loosely speaking empty. So the point is, the depths rush thing is empty, and like the Metsula, it's like deep down in the ocean. Nothing's over there. So in other words, they made it a Metsula, she'ein bo dagim. Even there's no fish at all in this depth. I mean, I guess there was something cooking in a regular deep hole, a little few fish are in there, but this is a Metsula, a depth without even fish, which I sort of imagine is just a black hole, a black hole. Maybe it's not even a trap that has some appeal that no one's interested in going to. Just a loch, just like it's like France.
Here.
Like who the heck would want to live in Europe today? Like, come, what's the appeal? It's like there's nothing. If you ask me, what are you doing over there? Like there's no appeal at all. It's just like who wants
Milky's only cost 2 shekels.
Here, Hashem. It reminds me of Shlomo Melech, Kol Havel. They're getting prepared to go to worship Hashem and be with Hashem. What's Egypt? Everything. What do we need this for?
That's true. I mean, but I think, I was understanding this to be in the not the Jews' understanding of Egypt, but Egypt in the eye of the world in general. Stam. Either it's like this. It was the trap of like Manhattan style, but now the money's gone, so like what's the appeal of Manhattan if there's no money there? Or just like Stam, which is like a swamp, just like an empty wasteland. So the difference is perhaps the difference is that because when we just had a sugya a moment ago, about taking money out. So you might think it's just the money that's being removed, but it could be also it's losing two things, not just the money, that's small potatoes. It was losing its massive free labor base of slaves that are Jews. And once that's gone, perhaps the whole thing is like there's no appeal. It's just a swamp. But yeah, it could be it fell apart. So like this isn't a perfect mushroom, but it's something. It's something to grab anywhere in the world. Let's take South Africa. It's not a great mushroom, but it's something. South Africa never had slaves, ever. Not like America. South Africa never had slaves. But even they had slaves more or less, not technical slaves. But South Africa was a rich country. How come it was so rich? Because you had 4 million white people on top of 40 million black people that basically worked for free, loosely speaking, and therefore there was tremendous wealth for the country because you could exploit huge amounts of labor essentially for free, and that's how it works in all these third world countries, right? So Egypt did the same thing. Egypt has massive millions and millions of free slaves, and with slave labor you can get a lot done, and everyone can be, the place is rich. It's on the backs of all the poor people.
Sitting on top of the world.
Right. But it's not because you're focusing just on the elites. So once the slaves have left, what's Egypt? If the whole infrastructure, it's like imagine if it would happen, right? South Africa all of a sudden went on its head, it's all unraveling.
It's true that wherever Jews are, the countries are successful. Wherever Jews are not, false.
Right. So here's the thing. I'll tell you the Ben Ish Chai, Ben Yoyada, same thing. He understands it like that. He understands the mashal isn't like I described it, either a trap that you no longer are enticed to versus like a style wasteland, to like a physical versus spiritual issue. In other words, the physical issue is that the money's gone. It's what's the appeal? And then he focuses like there still would be like little crumbs on the line. Like, that's like the mushroom. But the spiritual issues, like once the Jews are gone, like the place has been denuded of its spiritual capital.
Also, you mentioned that the country was completely destroyed by the plagues.
Right, that's it. That's the thing. It's like away from exactly right. So what's left? The place is ripped to shreds. There's no one there anymore. Like they left the place just like as a what was the country just had that had the tsunami?
Indonesia.
Was it Indonesia?
Indonesia.
Indonesia?
That was one of the big ones. Yeah.
So some of these places, they're like, oh, you know, forget that. Think New Orleans. New Orleans is finished. I don't know there, but after Katrina, I was like, it's finished. New Orleans, I don't know if it'll ever come back, but basically gone.
What was taking place over there was amazing. That's
the place.
Amazing.
But that's so it's the same story. Either it's after the plagues, it was just like a wasteland. Like the tsunami, Hashem's 10-plague tsunami hit. All the people left, nothing left. Just a Matsula. It's like a hole in the ground. Anyways, too tough.
By the way, the depths of the sea are not deserted. And even today, it's very little known what you know more about space and the moon than we know about the depths of the oceans.
That is true. Thanks. So no share tomorrow because of the party. Yeah, you are right, Baruch.